Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, Steve. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is enjoying our conversation today, our panels today. Now will be our last panel. Will be dedicated to the metaverse. Now we
Absolutely.
a few of the speakers will be joining us shortly. They are already backstage. They're preparing to enter it. So in the meantime, I would love to thank everyone so far for being here. I'll introduce Carl and Gustavo as well. I'll let them introduce themselves as well. So without further ado, welcome everyone to this last panel of Metaverse. Carl and Gustavo, if you want to briefly introduce yourselves, I'll hear about that. And Pepe as well. So we have all the panel here. Yeah, thank you for joining us, Pepe. So if we can start with Carl real quick, if you can briefly introduce yourself, then Gustavo, and then Pepe. Would love that. You can hop in, Carl. Just introduce yourself. Feel free.
Oh, okay. I was worried about the dog who's around here somewhere. Hi, everyone. I'm Carl Amorim. I'm from São Paulo, Brazil. It's kind of hard to introduce myself. So I'm founder of the Blockchain Research Institute Brazil, organizer of the Blockchain Hub. And now we are working on organizing distributed autonomous organization. So I guess that's it.
Loved it. Yeah, thank you very much, Carl. Look forward to asking you a few questions. Gustavo, if you want to introduce yourself, please feel free as well.
Sure. Hello, Rodrigo. Hello, Carl. Jose, how are you? I'm Gustavo Carriconde. I'm also in São Paulo, in Brazil, and I'm the head of one of the investment funds in startups in Brazil. And we are studying a lot about the technologies and all the resources gravitating in around the metaverse theme. And we do some research on all the market related about metaverse. And my main role today is the CEO of Gutenberg Ventures, which is a venture capital fund to find startups that are developing solutions for one of the metaverse frontiers. So that's what I'm doing today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a brief presentation. Pepe, welcome to the stage as well. If you would enlighten us with a brief bio of yours.
Thank you very much, Rodrigo, and hi, everybody. Well, I am Peruvian. I am living in Monterrey, in Mexico. I'm Vice President for Strategy Consulting on Digital Transformation. I do mentor different startups, including Rodrigo's company, Torus and Maco Capital. And I am also working as professor in different universities here in Mexico. I've lived in different countries, including Brazil, so I can speak Portuñol. and I'm very excited with the opportunity that the metaverse has for really the future. I believe that the next 10 years at least, I believe we will be using metaverse as part of interaction, having this hybrid environment in the different, not only corporations and startup, but also universities and our real life. Thank you.
Okay, love that. So I would definitely would love to actually ask you a bit, Pepe, since you have a very solid background with digital transformation, especially working with several large companies. I think the metaverse really, it's not only just a plug and play, but there's a lot of digital transformation. It's a shift in the mentality, in the way that companies collaborate, the way that they use that themselves. How do you feel about the challenges and the opportunities that the metaverse presents at the moment?
Yeah, I believe that metaverse has an equation, right? Because you can transport yourself virtually everywhere. You can transform collaboration environments with this hybrid, but also you can transact, right? And Metaverse has different attributes. Of course, you can interact, you can create a virtual economy, you can interoperate, and of course, you have an identity, and you can be immersive, right? And there is a bunch of different kind of applications for the companies, beginning with 360 remote location visits or immersive training, immersive meetings and workspaces, immersive design and collaboration, and of course, virtual event and gathering. And Gartner, for example, they have been sharing something that they call the trend spotting tools for metaverses, where they see how gaming and spatial computing are interacting in order to deliver shared experiences in virtual spaces, also enabling tokenized assets and having the possibility that digital humans can interact in this environment. Do this make sense for you?
Oh, it really, really does. And one of the things that I really wanted to jump back as well when we were saying about metaverse, I was just recalling our first panel, which was dedicated to blockchain. I think a great person to actually raise a couple of questions about it is obviously Carl. I loved actually his class on DAOs. And I would really love to jump back on that because if you really think about blockchain is about governance, right? And now that we're transitioning to a more and more digital world and a more virtual environment, it's all about the bylaws. It's all about the fund, the settings, right? How we organize, how it will be ruled. And I would love to hear about a little bit about you, Carl. You know, especially the differentiation about what would be a decentralized autonomous organization and a distributed autonomous organization.
Okay. Well, I would like to say that I totally agree with Jose's view about the metaverse, and I will be glad and very happy when this begin, because what we are seeing now it's completely the opposite. We are seeing completely dominance on the metaverse, like feudal landlords, which each one is trying to build their own metaverse and become the king of their own small space on the internet. And so to create economy, we will need to change it dramatically. I was with Gustavo yesterday, and we were talking about that and the economy on the metaverse and about DAOs also. And one of the challenges, a taxonomy challenge, like the DAO thing. So we're talking about the decentralized autonomous organization, which is an organization that we got a vertical, hierarchical or structure, and you cut off the top of it, and you hide those guys behind a curtain, and you put a smart contract on the control that, and you create this stupid thing called the governance tokens, which is almost a security token, which will distribute power according to how much money the guy has invested. So we're talking about regular organizations, regular what we call anonymous society, which we took out the responsible and the accountability of the top, and we put a contract on that, leaving the guys who are actually taking the decisions without any kind of accountability of the results of the organization. So they say that we are taking a democratic vote and decision, so no one is going to be responsible for that. This is a nonsense. I don't believe this model will thrive in the metaverse, because there is no innovation on that. What we call a distributed autonomous organization is something completely different. It's not based on smart contracts. It's based on people and on procedures and regulations and rules. So we will have procedures to decision making, not by voting, but by consent or consensus. We will have procedures to organize meetings, to conflict solving, to transparency, to accountability, and so. And smart contracts are not the decision making process, but is the underlying technology will give trust for the human relationships that are happening on the metaverse. It could be happening on online or on a virtual reality environment, or even on a physical environment. So, and and smart contracts will coordinate and will be responsible just for the financial flow, for how the money is going to be distributed, and ensuring that when you have a proof of your work on this organization, you will be rewarded with a participation on the revenue sharing. So I used to call as a joke that distributed autonomous organization would be some sort of a market Marxism, where you get the participation of the labor on the results of the work. At the same time, you have a market system on it. Now we call it just distributed capitalism, where you get a more just participation of the workers on the results of the company, but also we will reward the entrepreneur who on the old ways would be assuming the risk by himself, which is going to be distributing the risk for the whole company and everyone who is working on them. So I believe that the metaverse will help to develop this sort of organization. And when it does that, we will be inverting the theory of the firm from Ronald Kersey from 1930s, which they said that the firm will be viable or will be justified when it will reduce the transaction cost. So metaverse with blockchain, DAOs, artificial intelligence, and IoT will empower the individual, and so it will reduce the transaction cost more than what we got centralizing on big factories, on big companies or large structure. We're going to distribute the production ways to the last mile, and we'll solve not just problems on production and industry, but we're also going to start solving problems on environment and sustainability, addressing at least packaging problems and reusing of some packaging materials, and closing the cycle of producing waste and recycling this waste on packaging. That's that. That's the
Yeah, and I think that there's an underlying thing that I recently heard, and I think not a lot of people really realize that, is that technology does not change human dynamics. Actually, depending on how it's set up, it only enhances and not necessarily enhances the good side of it. This is where I feel that especially in the metaverse, really the combination of what we just said about being the mixture about what we have from the gaming industry, combining with blockchain. It's about setting the ground rules for people can collaborate. Because if from the starting point you can allow that certain individuals that are either from huge amounts of cash or depending on their power or something, they can overpower and they can run things. They could sell you as a great collaborative idea and all that. But in truth, what they are scripting, what they are establishing, it's very contrary to what they actually are doing. And now that this is especially that we're in such in the hype of the moment, and everybody just kind of want to jump in, even though without truly understanding. Us talking about governance, I think it's fundamental. governments regarding the human transactions from buying, selling, sharing documents, all that privacy and all this good stuff. And Pepe, I would like to ask you another question as well. Is that who do you think faces the biggest challenges, regarding the transition into a virtual environment? Could be, the SMEs or the large corporation. Who do you think benefits the most, and or who has the most challenges regarding that transformation?
Yes, thank you, Rodrigo. I will try to address this from the different point of view in terms of obstacles, opportunities, and outcomes. For example, if we talk about shared experiences, which is the main current focus, right, of metaverses, the obstacle is the workforce access disparity to needed tools and connectivity, right? Not everybody still has a very good connectivity, and the different tools depends on different browsers and different versions of those browsers, and of course the ability to stream through the internet, right? So to have immersive meetings for distributed workforce, that is a great opportunity. And of course, the outcome will be improving employee connectivity with collaboration and with engagement for all the workforce. Is the workplace of the future. Now, if we talk about virtual spaces, today the obstacle is there is still some complex and costly to scale. The opportunity is how can we host live events virtually, like for example, this one, but in a virtual world. And of course, we will have an increased opportunity to really have these live events for the next years. If we talk about tokenized assets, the main obstacle is cybersecurity and fraud risks, right? People do not trust, and of course there is a lot of danger in the net still there. So we have an opportunity to really begin selling and trading digital assets in a safer and secure way in order to really have this virtual economy pump, right? And if we go to the digital human spaces, I believe that the technology is still in a nascent and limited version. The opportunity is to really try to deploy more support in order to enable digital humans, so people will really improve the way we can have this virtual life more time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pepe. And now, sorry, before I ask you something, Gustavo, David just asked a question that I think it's a very relevant topic. So I'll read for all of you. So people use masks to hide their true selves. Doesn't this behavior indicate the existence of a metaverse for different pillars such as work, relationships, fun, education, amongst others? So basically, really the idea of the concept of you attaching yourself to whichever metaverse offers you what you are expecting are the ones that could be either dedicated for work, those other ones that are just for events for itself. So I would love to hear, from you three, how do you feel about that? That multiverse kind of approach to it, where you can have several different not linked metaverses that they don't necessarily communicate, but allow specific functions and allow people to use them in a certain way. I don't know who wants to begin with.
I can
Go ahead. Yeah. Thank you, Gustavo.
take that. Yeah. So I think we're talking about different technologies for a long time, like augmented reality since the 60s. The blockchain is a white paper initially from 2008. Virtual reality is nothing new. right? Game platforms are nothing that came up last year, but now for some reason we're calling all those technologies the metaverse, right? Since a recent event that happened, some people say it was Mark Zuckerberg's announce, whatever. Even if you don't believe that, we're talking about blockchain and even NFTs for cryptocurrency for a while. But for some reason now, we're getting into a healthier debate about how can we put all those technologies together in the form of something we could call the future of human interactions. And that's basically some place in time where we can do more with the technologies that we have today, right? So I don't believe that the metaverse will use an extra hours from our day, but the metaverse must be something that we can fit or replace some part of our day with another type of activity that could be more productive and help us to do more in the 24 hours that we have within our day. So when David talks about the avatars, the interface, that I think is just a part of the metaverse. That's how you display yourself, right? When Carl talks about the underlying structure, which are the smart contracts, the payment methods. This is another very important part of the metaverse. So when I start my fund, I went after a company in the US called Round Hill Investments. They have an ETF fund, and they made a research about all those underlying structures that are could be required to hello, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, you're
Yeah.
back. Yes, yes. Go ahead.
So I went after the Round Hill Investment ETF fund, and they came up with a few important parts of this structure that would be required to build the future of the internet. Right. So they talk about compute power. We are seeing the GPUs or the computers to getting stronger and stronger, and we can do more things, and that's going to be required to create a place where people can interact in a metaverse environment. Networking, the bandwidth, the speed that we can transfer data across the world. That's a really bottleneck at the moment, and we have opportunity to improve that. And the metaverse might become more real the moment we can improve the bandwidth of data. The visual platforms, right? When we talk about VR, that's just a way to interact, to provide an experience for people, so they can do things they are already want to do. Like people want to experiment with different profiles, be something that maybe they are not. Some people, of course, they are scammers. They want to express this human behavior, but they're going to express that human behavior even if there are no avatars, even in the real world. Pyramid scams, they are not something new. Like says Carl, 100 years ago we had pyramid scams. So basically, the visual platforms and the way you interact with the metaverse, we're gonna see things that humans are already doing in the offline world, right? The interchange standards, the way the platforms connect to each other, it's another very important variable of the equation to solve, to build the metaverse. The payment with the cryptocurrencies, the way we provide transparency for the relationships. If we can put all those things together, I believe we can create something that we can call metaverse, or whatever the name. The name actually doesn't matter, right? People struggle to define the name, but I see in a macro way all what is happening. It's a huge convergence of technologies that are enabling us to build human interactions in a more efficient way than we used to do it in a couple of years ago.
I would like to complete what Gustavo said. We used to we are used to confound to mix what we are seeing to what is behind that metaverse. There's too much things behind that. The VR interface is just to help people to understand what's possible to do around that. And our experience with distributed organization is you need a huge effort to self knowledge or self understanding. So and everything on a metaverse that you don't know the people and you don't have a close relationship when you're beginning to operate on this metaverse. Uh, you need the reputation to follow you. So when people start understanding that, the avatars will get closer to the reality of who are the person who is behind that avatar, because they will carry all his identity, and not on an identification point of view, but who he really is, his profile, his identity as a student or a learner, as a family person, his financial identity, his work productivity, and business reliability, and all that will came with the avatar. And then we can change that cartoon of the New Yorker who said, the internet people don't know you are a dog. I mean, the internet people don't care if you are a dog, if your reputation it's accurate and you are doing what it says that you do. You could be a refrigerator. If you can purchase something to fill you up, Amazon will sell to you, or people will sell stuff for you because you can do it and you can pay it. The reliability and your track records will start showing that. So people will start to looking at that and start feeling more safe, exposing themselves, and will lead to all the fun stuff, all the fantasy stuff will be used on a more gaming way to interacting, not on a business like, but on a learning environment or on a social environment or something like that. That's what I believe.
I think one great thing to think a few weeks ago, a couple of months, I was speaking to Pepe, regarding a project that I'll present it to you by the end of this panel. But one of the things that really came to my mind was when he said that you have to understand that the metaverse it's a market, if you will, that people have high expectations on it. I think that with movies, for instance, Ready Player One or stuff like that, we love the true idea of the like the Oasis, like, or a Matrix, or where you can plug yourself and have the ultimate experience. But truth be told, we're still pretty far from that reality in terms of technology. And still, we don't even know if that would be a feasible thing. When we think about large scale, we're still a lot of people in this world. There are people that don't even have water still, and how can we think about that? We're just simply gonna plug in, to a huge metaverse or something like that. So I think it is quite interesting for us to really demystify a lot of the metaverse. And what I would love to provoke all of you is: do you think that we'll ultimately shift to a fully virtual mode? Imagine like the Ready Player One reality, or not? But if you do think, how long do you think that could take to make it real?
Yeah, Ready Player One, Rodrigo, is very centralized, right? So I have seen a few times that movie and think that I don't think that would be the ideal metaverse, because there was an owner there, right? It was and that's I think the best metaverse would be the opposite. But I like to think of a more Darwinistic approach to this problem, and instead of trying to guess what experience or what sort of smart contract or DAO structure would really work in the future, I like to think that many of them are not going to work, and the market and the clients, people will reject by themselves, and that's a necessary step for improvement, right? You cannot just jump to the and shift a gear and then one day wake up in the metaverse. That's not gonna happen. So I agree with Carl that today is a mess. We have a jungle out there, but that's a necessary step to filter out the projects, the ideas, the interactions that will work or not. And maybe one day, I don't know, maybe you wake up, you take your avatar for a job interview in one company that it's not in another country, and you get a job on that company to work in another continent, and then you work with your avatar a couple of hours, you get paid with cryptocurrency, I don't know, and then you come back to the real world, you change that cryptocurrency to real fiat currency and buy food. But I don't know, who cares? Maybe you didn't get a job on your country because there was a lack of jobs in your country, and you need to go to the metaverse to get a job. I don't know how it's going to happen. I'm really sure that the market will filter out the bad ideas, and the good ones will persist. And if you think, if you look back, we have this roadmap, right? The beginning of the internet was exactly like that. Many bad ideas, they just simply disappear, and the good ones were improved, and then we're just in this constant improvement stage.
I would love to see the labor regulations and the IRS operating on those situations that you said.
Who need them? Who need them?
I think there are a lot of repercussions on that. And since that we're really now just having the initial problems with it, because on paper, just like a spreadsheet accepts everything, right? In a presentation, you can put everything. You can say that your solution solves the food problem in the world, the food scarcity or something like that. But in real life, you have to think about the organic problem, which is us humans. You can see in Roblox, for instance, the vast majority of its users are kids, but they started seeing, a lot of serious issues with people organizing parties and doing some mature stuff right there, to be a bit more euphemistic about it. So there are a lot of problems that can happen. The same problems that we have here, for instance, the labor problem, just like Carl said. Coming from a legal background, I understand that for a company, if an employee of yours can actually prove that he's been 24/7 in the same platform that he works, at least here in Brazil, I don't know in the rest of the world, but our labor legal system, it's very intense, and that not only from the labor side, but as Carl said, there are many repercussions of being that. But I love to think that to understand that we're in a process of trial and error. And I would love to believe that, just as Gustavo said, that the market will filter, the bad ideas from the good ones. The problem is that we know that a few of the tech giants are not necessarily the greatest ones when we talk about privacy, on who's behind and what's the mentality behind it. So I think that this is a great point that we're touching here. It's the actually real life implications, not the beauty of it, not the dream of the connectivity of the world. That we started with the World Wide Web, back in the past century. The idea of the interconnectivity, that you can bridge the borders and things like that. I think that with the UX, really, which is the metaverse, allowing it. Now we have that people are redoing a lot of stuff that they do in real life. They bother their work colleagues. They sit on the same chair, and depending on how you do it, I think that companies, especially the companies that are developing the metaverses and things like that, they really do have to put themselves in check to try to anticipate that. But I think we're in a moment where curiosity is a beautiful thing. We're still going to go through several challenges up until we have a more mature approach to it. But I'm loving how things are going, and I would love to hear a bit of your insights on this, Pepe, as well.
Yes, thank you, Rodrigo. I believe that pandemics has taught us that we can balance our lives, right? Today, all the workforce wants to remain remotely, and there is a lot of different regulations that, or let's say principles that we are trying to think them again in order to allow people to remain virtual, right, and remote. And Metaverse give you the immersive experience to really interact and interoperate. A lot of companies, from a company perspective, they are looking with optimism the emotional, the impact on the industries, on people, and of course the virtual interactions that are happening, right? The uncertainty in sometimes is in terms of using VR or AR experience because of the availability and cost of the infrastructure. But let's say trying to use a metaverse from your devices without having the wearables, I believe it's pretty accepted in the different companies. Now, I was in a meeting with like 350 C-levels talking about metaverse with Gartner. And one of the questions was, what is your organization's plan in terms of metaverse, right? And 52% answered, no action plan yet. And only 18 was in medium or long-term planning. And when the second question was, and what is the metaverse area that you feel offers your organization the most opportunity? And 43% answered virtual spaces and shared spaces. And the second biggest one was tokenized assets. And finally, digital humans, which was the one I chose, right? And after talking for an hour on this, the third question that this was at the end of this meeting was, now that we have walked through an awful lot of information about metaverse, what will be your organization plans in terms of metaverse if you are the decision making? And still 40% said no action plan yet, but 32% says we want to try and we will have medium-term planning for that. So my reflection after this was still there is work to be done in order to really leverage all the beauties of this. There is acceptance, but of course there is not plans yet on investments. So I believe there is still work to do there, right? And on the other side, if we talk about technology-wise, I believe we need to work on the interaction layer, on the content layer, and then the infrastructure layer, right? In these three different layers: interaction, content, and infrastructure. And depending on the offering, because there is a whole lot of offer there, we will have emerging metaverse characteristics, advanced, and of course the mature ones. So I believe there is a lot of future in terms of, I would love to see a maturity model in terms of what is the level of maturity of an organization taking the most of a metaverse, right? And of course, a second layer of maturity will be what will be the adoption of a company on metaverse functionality from the different dimensions. And the third level of maturity model will be, what is the level of the maturity of the technology you can use in the three layers, in interaction, content, and infrastructure, right? And this will give us a discipline and a pathway in order for a maturity roadmap. That will be my second thought, that If we can gather the different metaverse interested in trying to understand what is the metaverse maturity of adoption of a company, we will help them take the most benefits of them when they are adopting the different functionality available. And of course, in terms of product maturity of the different vendors like yourself, you can first tackle the initial functionalities, and then once you have learned and you have more adoption, you can go to the advanced and then the mature, right? Make sense?
Yeah, it actually does, because there are a lot of tools now in terms of metaverses and technologies. And sometimes, not necessarily sometimes, but that's my particular feeling of it, is that you can just force a company, for instance, to power through a metaverse. There's a lot of things that have to be addressed. You don't need to just in 1 week suddenly just put them out in the central land or whatever. It requires some time to really to understand, and so they can use the most of it as well. So they can understand what are the benefits, what it can be, one of the things that I feel about the metaverse, it's not about only going virtual, but it's allowing hybrid, which I believe it's kind of what I love the most. It's allowing people to have both, just like you said, Pepe. Now, after the pandemic, if you will, we're still quote unquote, during it. We haven't solved the issue yet, but a lot of people found out that they can actually manage time. They can actually have time to study, to work, have time with their relatives, be at house, watch Netflix as well. The virtual world has provided a lot of amenities to people, especially work-wise, in terms of efficiency. When you think about large corporations, the amount of money they used to spend on traveling, executive wine and dine, and a lot of that. This is basically a lot of it is resolved through a video conference or something like that. I think that there was a bit of a shift in the way that people approached the virtual solutions, because if we hadn't had the pandemic, if you talk about now with a large corporation, say, hey, instead of spending millions of dollars a year, you can spend a lot less, with Google Workplace, Teams, Meet, or whatever. It didn't make that much sense before, but now that we were, as a society, we were forced into a virtual environment, they say that, hey, this actually works. But at the same time, we saw that just a video conference is not enough. This is what we're doing. There is a moment where you get bored of it. The experience is not necessarily engaging. And when you think about working, you want to have efficient communication and all that. A lot of it has to do on how the people that are working there are feeling with the environment that they're in. They feel engaged. They feel that, oh man, I have to send a message before, send a link to a video, to a video conference, to this. Several steps, a lot of bureaucracy just to say, hey, I have a doubt in the document X, in page 11. So by allowing us to have these platforms that connect us, we can allow that not only people work efficiently in a remote way, but also the ones that want to go to the actual physical place, they can go there, but simultaneously collaborate with people that are actually virtually. So I would love to hear a bit of how do you guys think about the metaverse being a hybrid, how can I say, an instrument to a hybrid world, really to making the best of it, to people that want to stay at home, to stay at, people that want to go physically there, go, but to being the instrument for connection. No worries. Whoever wants to answer first.
Well, I was in one of those Gartner's webinars, just the ones that Pepe mentioned. And one of the Gartner's concept is a transportation, where you can go to places using virtual reality. You can apply to some use cases, right? That transportation, for example, to meet with someone in a virtual room that you are not that you're being transported there. So you block your real world, right, with a fully covered glass. And the transformation is the second concept of Gartner. So you can either transport people or transform the reality. And then we're talking augmented reality, right? When we talk about augmented reality, it's all about to be more productive and do more with exactly what Rodrigo said, with the 24 hours that we have in one day. So if we can use the transport and the transformation of the world to increase human productivity, to make us do more, and by the way, we spend this word spend your life, right? In Portuguese is a different word, but in English you spend money, right? But you don't spend your life, right? So how do you measure your return on investment on your life, right? It's the way you spend your life is not by the years that you live, right? So if we, let's say in the past we can live 80 years by doing so much, and in the future we can live 80 years by doing 10 times more, and be 10 times more happier or more productive or build more wealth or whatever. I think metaverse could have those type of transportation and transformation of reality if they can help human beings to improve the way we spend our life. I think it's a good value aggregated to humanity. And again, it will be filtered out by the market, and people will start to adopt whatever proposal it comes from metaverse, being a virtual platform interaction, or a better way to pay for things, or a better way to create organizations, decentralized organizations, or whatever. So I think it's all about the way you spend the life that you have.
Oh, I would like to say that humanity was already late to embrace digital economy. So we are coming from an industrial revolution, and then we got computers, and then we got the internet, and all this. It's happened too fast. So on my lifespan, it happened. So I remember when I was finishing on my last years of university, I changed for a calculators or Hewlett Packard calculators to a computer. Start using spreadsheets, and then I was in the market for like 4 or 5 years, and we start has receiving emails. We start seeing the internet, and then we have the web one, which was a content revolution, and then we have web 2.0, and then we're talking about web 3.0, but we haven't changed our lives and our organizations to face that. And then this pandemic just throw us without any preparation on the needs to embrace digital life. So we're trying to deal with that yet. So the metaverse is going to help that, and will help us to find a new ways of working, or working remotely, working on a hybrid mode. We are seeing events that we were yesterday, Gustavo and I, that we have questions come from the audience, and this audience was in a building here in São Paulo, and also on the internet. 10 times more people on the internet than it was in the room that we were. It was good for us to meet in person, but was also good that we know that we can reach more people than that. Now, we will need to learn how to work again. We will need to develop a new way to work with knowledge. And that's not the same way that we used to work with on an industry, on an assembly line or something like that. Knowledge is not comparable to a machine work or a factory. It's something more exponential. It get inputs from everywhere. So we have things like crowdsourcing. We have something like open innovation and stuff like this. So we need space for those things happening. And we were controlling that using industrial age metrics and industrial age methods that we will need to change. And we will need to learn what and how to measure the new productivity standards and indexes, so we can apply on work. We are talking about people having like 4 working days and 3 weekends, so day weekends. So are we allowed to move time on a job and still being productive? Can we be more productive working less? Is creativity but on an inverse proportion to how many times you spend working? So we will need to question ourselves and start looking at the metaverse as a huge learning and experimenting pool that a new way that society will interact and work will happen. We need to end the thing that, oh God, Monday is coming again, and we are going to the worst part of the week. So, and start working, waiting for Friday. On a DAO, we have this understanding that every day could be a working day, or even can be a leisure day, or it can combine that you can work as you are having a good time, or when you are away from your office or something, and it shouldn't be a burden that you need to carry. So the great thing on metaverse is it will change society for good. And as Marshall McLuhan said, innovation is not a new technology. It's the impact that will change culture that this technology will bring. So what we're going to do with the technology that we're talking now, it's going to be the innovation, the business models, the new ways of work, of the interact, of to relate each other that you came out of this. It's going to actually be the great impact of the metaverse. It's not what we're going to put inside of that, but what we will take out of these experiments that we're having now.
I think I think it was a quote from Zuckerberg when they finally unveiled that they were rebranding Facebook to Meta. I don't like to quote him too much, but I think he nailed in one point. I think the metaverse is not about using more of the internet. It's about having a smoother experience with it. And I say that because recently I have a younger brother. He's 10 years younger than me, and his friend. He's now living in the U.S. He sent me a message and say, "Hey man," he was kind of freaking out. And I said, what's happening? And he told me, well, and now with these news and metaverse and what, and I thought he was very worried about, and I said, what are you worried about, really? And I said that it's going to turn into a matrix, really, that suddenly, the machines won, and then they can hack into yourself. And they said, yes, I know that's Neuralink from Elon Musk, but that's another topic. But there is that fear. I think that a lot of the people that watch a lot of sci-fi movies and a lot of the stuff, they have that vision, that unrealistic vision of what technology is today. In terms of, yes, they can. There's a lot of ways that they can already track you. For instance, this little thing, you have your own tracker on your pocket. It knows who do you speak with, what time you go to bed, everything it knows about you. So it's not that we're not already in a Big Brother kind of environment, but really the metaverse is not the enemy necessarily. I think what we're doing here and debating this and bringing different points of view and asking and really saying that, hey, this is a little bit shady. Those are the things that you have to take into consideration. It really helps a lot of people to really calm down a little bit, because at least for what I can see at the moment, we're still not there yet in terms of Matrix. And so I think we're going now to the end part of our event today. So I'd like to open real quick to Carl and Gustavo and Pepe, so you can give your finishing thoughts about it, and then I'll wrap it up. And for those of you that are still here, thank you very much. And I would love to make an invitation. I'll share on the chat the link to Torus. Torus is the virtual hub that I was speaking to. We'll do a demo for the ones that are here, so we can get to know each other, and you can have basically a startup version of what we were just saying right here. So yeah, Carl, if you want to give your finishing remarks.
Sure. Well, that's something that we said yesterday at the event that Gustavo and I were talking. This is not about technology. This is about people. And as soon as we understand that, it's going to be easier for us. We cannot keep ourselves discussing about which technology or which metaverse I'm going to get in or not. We should look at that and see how is this improving the human relationship and with each other and with themselves. How is improving his relationship with family, friends, and how it is becoming something better than what we have now. So if metaverse is going to be a burden for anyone who is getting in on that, it will flop. But if it could help us to be better in every aspect of our lives, it will be a great thing. It will be a great thing. So whatever thing that you see, a company who wants to build their own metaverse, you cannot believe on that. You see like things that are happening that are not good for the users of this metaverse. It will not thrive on that. So metaverse will only thrive it will brings something new and better for the human being.
Thank you very much, Carl. Gustavo, if you want to share your finishing remarks.
Sure. Thank you, Rodrigo. Today, every business leader or every world leader is being pushed by their boards and investors or clients to position themselves on the whatever they're gonna do about the metaverse, right? A little bit of fear of missing out, running around, and most of them they don't know how to position their organizations, right? Even leaders of huge amounts of capital, they really don't know too much about this thematic, but it's very similar with the beginning of the internet. And that's nothing new, right? This is, I recommend a book here, The Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton Christensen. That's exactly the innovator's dilemma, whether you put your resources on something that's really stable and run the business for a long time, or you bet on new technologies. So my advice here for the world leaders is to invest in some sort of innovation, open innovation program, or bring a startup to your ecosystem and get closer to whatever is going on about any one of those technologies that are being gravitating around the metaverse theme. Because we are in a moment where we have this opportunity to trial and error so many different business models and put together technologies that were never available for us to create. And I think we live in a very exciting moment, and you can either decide if you're going to see that as an opportunity or just wait until someone disrupt your industry. Basically, that happened many times in the humans' history. So I don't think we're seeing something really new in terms of this model that is happening, but we're seeing so many new technologies now on the stage that we can use to change things for better or for worse. So thank you, Rodrigo.
Thank you very much. And Gustavo, Pepe, if you want to share your thoughts as well, I would love to hear those.
Thank you, Rodrigo. I believe that the world will continue to be digital, and companies and organizations have a chance to create phygital experiences, because phygital is the interaction between physical and digital, right? And Metaverse is an opportunity to have digital content that intersect with the physical world real time, spatially indexed, and with organized content in order to be collaborative and interoperable. Before the pandemics, I had a chance to go to Japan. I don't know if you have visited Team Labs. Team Labs is a digital art museum, and it's a physical metaverse because you have two experiences. One is Team Lab Planets, where you have a feeling and sensation that you enter a museum barefoot and walk into water, and then virtual worlds comes to you and you live experiences. And Team Lab Borderless, both in Tokyo, it's about exploration and discovery without boundaries. Both are physical, immersive experiences thanks to virtual metaverse. So it's really a crazy sensation. I was there 4 hours. It was like 15 minutes. And it's the same in a metaverse, right? So don't lose the opportunity to really experience this phygital world. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Pepe. I would like to thank everyone that it's been with us, both here live and the ones that are going to be later on. I would love to invite who's here to access. I have pinned a message, which is the website. So for those of you that are watching this right now, so it's called projecttorus.com. If you go through the landing page, there is a button which is MetaWhat. Within that button will lead you to a landing page where you will just test and allow your video conference, and then we'll meet you there. Hopefully we'll have a few more minutes so we can discuss a couple of the ideas and we show you around. So thank you very much on my behalf. Thank you all of the panelists. Steve, thank you very much. I love the partnership that we've developed over the time. Well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us, everybody, and we will see you on Torus. Take care.
Take care.